The other January 6th committee members should get preemptive pardons from President Biden.
Cheney did something that's inexcusable, along with Thompson and the people on the Unselect Committee of political thugs and, creeps. Honestly, they should go to jail.
So you think Liz Cheney should go to jail?
For what they did.
Everyone on the committee, you think?
I think everybody anybody that voted in favor.
Are you going to direct your FBI director and your attorney general to send them to jail?
No, not at all. I think that they'll have to look at that, but I'm not going to. I'm going to focus on drill, baby, drill.
When you say that, it carries weight, though. You've tapped these people to lead the Justice Department and FBI.
They can do whatever they want.
Okay.
Biden can give him a pardon if he wants to, and maybe he should. Just remember, Unselect Committee, a year and a half of sworn testimony, and after getting all of the testimony, they deleted it. And they destroyed almost everything. There's nothing left. It's unprecedented.
And that is where we start this hour with Democratic Congresswoman from California and former member of the House January 6th Committee, Zoe Lofgren. Congresswoman, thank you for being with us. I watched you listening to that clip play back, a lot of head shaking. So I want you to talk me through the many inaccuracies and lies that we heard. I also want to know what you make of this report.
Well, I think my colleagues on the other side of the aisle are still trying to downplay the riot, their own complicity in the effort to overturn the election. The so-called report is filled with inaccuracies, and I think the public does know what happened. Where our report was filed, we understand and reported how the former president and now incoming president was at the center of a wide-ranging plot to overturn the Constitution, culminating in the riot. He summoned a mob to Washington and sent them down to the Capitol, knowing they were armed. So this effort to rewrite history is really pathetic. And also, I mean, the idea that you would refer for criminal prosecution, a legislator doing their legislative job is completely unconstitutional. I mean, read Article 1, Section 6 of the Constitution, the speech or debate clause. It's just preposterous.
Your thoughts, though, I mean, as you know better than anyone, there was a treasure trove of evidence, of testimony. Why are Republicans so intent then on going after Cassidy Hutchinson specifically?
Well, I don't know. You'd have to ask them. Mr. Trump apparently has a special feeling of hatred for Liz Cheney. She lives rent-free in his head, and he wants to do harm to her. He's made that abundantly clear. You can go to the government printing office and take a look at the evidence that we compiled, the transcripts, the emails, the radio traffic. Just go for yourself and see what is there, and it will put to a lie a lot of these things that my Republican colleagues are saying. You know, the idea that that we would persecute Liz Cheney for her heroic efforts on this committee is really, it's really sad.
You heard Trump there suggesting that President Biden ought to issue preemptive pardons. Would you accept or welcome a pardon from President Biden?
I have not sought a pardon. I didn't do anything wrong. And the speech or debate clause, it gives the broadest immunity in the Constitution to members of the House and Senate. But that's up to President Biden. Whatever judgment he makes, I will respect. There are certainly people that are in Trump's crosshairs who are not protected by the speech or debate clause. So he's going to evaluate all of that, and whatever decision he reaches, I will respect.
We have Trump's attacks on the 1-6 committee. You have him going after any news coverage that is not absolutely adoring. You have him suing news organizations. This is the behavior of dictators, autocrats. And so, of course, the question becomes, who will hold the line? What is your answer to that?
House Democrats will hold the line.
We have Republicans kowtowing to Trump every chance they get. I think that is rather implicit in the answer you just gave me. Do you see opportunities then for House Democrats to work together with House Republicans in the next 2 years?
Well, I've always worked on a bipartisan basis. In fact, the committee that I'm the ranking member on, the Science Committee, all of our bills were unanimous. I mean, all of our work was bipartisan, and I hope to do the same thing in the next Congress. Obviously, right now, the Republicans have a very small majority, and when several of their members leave, they will have a 2-vote majority, and they've got some of their members who won't vote yes on anything. So if we are going to accomplish anything, we need to do it together. Obviously, we have values that matter to us, and the art of compromise is making sure that the American people are being served and we're not being jammed. So, yeah, we're ready to work together if it's in the interest of the American people.
Congresswoman Zoe Lofgren, thank you so much for getting us started. I want to bring into the conversation founder of Democracy Docket and partner at the Elias Law Group, Mark Elias, also with us, former RNC spokesman, chairman, and my co-host on MSNBC's The Weekend. Michael, so you know much hell I'm going to catch for that this weekend, Mark Elias? That's not the type of error you just get to make. Mark Elias, this erosion of democracy, this norm busting, it is not new, and yet it should terrify us. You wrote about this earlier this month, quote, as we head towards January, it is our turn to use this period productively. Hoping that Trump fails is not a plan. We must develop and foster new movements, structures, tactics, platforms, and leaders to oppose Trump and articulate a positive vision. In most democratic political systems, this is referred to as the opposition. Rather than a resistance, the concept of an opposition is more comprehensive and durable. It recognizes that there are no time limits to the effort. What does it require to make that happen, Mark Elias?
It requires, first and foremost, courage, right? It requires persistence. It requires not being afraid of the bully that Donald Trump is and not letting him make people obey in advance, not letting him make people back down, not seeing people resign from office before their terms are over, not seeing good civil servants leave office so that he can replace them with political hacks. And it means that elected officials who are Democrats need to be ready to oppose him on the things that he needs to be opposed on and that will help them win elections. You know, the first thing I said where I list the elements of building a new opposition is that the way to defeat Donald Trump and the MAGA Republicans is to elect Democrats to control the House and the Senate, governorships, and eventually, hopefully, the presidency of the United States. And that needs to be our top priority.
I mean, Michael, he's been on the record. He's said what he said. Just to give you a few highlights, revenge does take time. I am your retribution. I will totally obliterate the deep state. When you hear Congresswoman Lofgren talking about how it's going to be congressional Democrats who hold the line, is there any role for congressional Republicans to play?
Absolutely, there's a role for them to play. To Mark's point, to the extent that they want to play it, there is room to play, just like there is for the Senate, Republican senators. They don't have to accept just because Donald Trump puts up an unqualified, former member or former this or current that. That they have to accept that person. They don't have to. They can say, advise and consent. We're advising you to send us somebody else. We will not consent to this individual. So yeah, they have the power. I'm surprised that folks in the media and in politics are acting like there is nothing to do here. That everybody's just going to fall over because Donald Trump walks into a room. That resistance / opposition has to exist somewhere in this pipeline. Otherwise, what's the point? We just turn out the lights and call this Trumpaker. Trump's America. So, I just don't buy that. I think that there's resiliency in this republic against authoritarianism, against the idea that any president wants to seek retribution. In those interviews with Kristen Welker, talking about, Liz Cheney should go to jail and be imprisoned for what? Doing her job as a member of Congress under the Constitution, under the rules of the House, formally voted on by the members of that House, placed on that committee by the Speaker of the House. What is the basis? And yet we walk around like, oh my God, there's nothing we can do. That's just, Donald Trump is upset, so let's figure out how we can make it better and fix it. To hell with that. That's just crazy. And that goes to the press, that goes to the politicians, that goes to people who think they're playing an inside game and think they're going to be nice. You're going to get smacked upside your head at some point by Donald Trump. And what are you going to do then? Because a whole lot of folks are going to be off in concentration camps or in jails because you didn't hold the line. So we've got to Mark's point, we've got to recognize the opposition. Yes, it is loyal. It is not loyal to Trump. It is loyal to the country. And that resistance is going to be the resistance to making this country something that it's not.
Mark, let me ask you about some of the resistance we could see just in the next few weeks. I'm not sure if you got to hear the question I asked Congresswoman Lofgren about the possibility of a preemptive pardon. The Congresswoman telling me she has not proactively sought such a pardon. But seeming to understand that despite the speech and debate clause and the many protections that are offered members of Congress, that there remains a threat in the form of the incoming president. What do you think? Do you think the 1-6 committee members, other people who've been targeted by Donald Trump, that they should take preemptive pardons before he comes into office?
Yeah, so my thinking on this has evolved over the last few weeks, and in part it has evolved because of how little courage there has been by so many institutions. I guess to what Michael Steele said, I say amen. I mean, there has just been one institution after another has folded. So my thought about the preemptive pardons has really shifted, and the fact is that if broad sweeping preemptive pardons are going to instill courage in people to stand up against Donald Trump, go ahead and do it. I mean, if the thing that we need to ensure that our institutions, that our politicians, that our activists, that the people who we need in civil society to be ready to join the fight and continue the fight for the next 4 years or more is preemptive pardons, then Joe Biden ought to issue preemptive pardons across that board, whatever that means, and because we cannot allow, as Democrats, us to once again get bogged down into two false choices. The first is this notion that somehow if Joe Biden does something, it will unleash Donald Trump to do something worse. That is crazy. Donald Trump will do the worst possible thing regardless of what Joe Biden or any Democrat does. Number one. Number two, we get involved in this very process discussion, as you were just asking, should they be sought? Should they be accepted? I don't even honestly, as a lawyer, know what it means for someone to accept a pardon. I mean, if Joe Biden issues a pardon, he issues a pardon. And if that is the way to embolden a strong opposition movement, then yes, go ahead and do it.
Thank you for reminding me, Mark, that even though I have reported on the Trump years and watched a lot of Law and Order, that I am not, in fact, an attorney. Michael Steele, if you had told me, I go back in the way back machine and a decade ago said that you and Mark Elias were going to be violently agreeing, all three of us